They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words, say thank you.
I love Gigi. So funny. Oh, my microphone broke again. Shoot, this could be a problem. All right. Give me 2 seconds. Welcome to Napoleon Hill Institute Wednesday training. I'm David Meltzer, and I'm trying to work through my microphone issues. But today's training, which will be available to everybody, exercises, guides, and this training, will be at david@dmeltzer.com. Real quickly, we're going to go over our schedule. We will be in New York and New Jersey, plus a car wash. Car wash means interviews, holding court, meetups, and VIP dinner. So to save time, when I say car wash, you say meetup, holding court, VIP dinner, and interviews. New York and New Jersey, then Phoenix for the professional athlete community event. It's the YPO for professional athletes plus meetup. Then the Masters Mastermind plus car wash as well. Then Phoenix back for the Aspire Business Tour plus car wash. And then to our content mastermind at the William Morris Endeavor Studios plus car wash as well. That's just the next week. So come and join us if you want to join us. Once again, it's the same place to join us as to get the exercises, guides, and my books. David@dmeltzer.com. If you want to be informed and invited, quite easy, text me. This is not a phone number. It's just a text community. 949 is the area code. The first 3 numbers is 298. The last 4 numbers, 2905. First 3 area code, 949. First 3, 298, 2905. All right, let's bring on my pal, Blaine Bartlett, and we're going to get to the training. I like your hat there, buddy.
Hey, an old Seattle Mariners, oldie from the Goldie.
I was glad to see you didn't jump on the bandwagon for the Seahawks, but went with the Mariners instead. Had a heck of a season last season, and looking forward, I'm sure, to another one. BlaineBartlett.com, moving possibilities into reality. All right, we're going to get right to it. Today's training is why most people quit. And in Napoleon Hill's words, most people are drifters. They think quitting is about failure. It's about the evidence that's present in front of them or contrary to where they want to be. In reality, it's about how we interpret the process. We start with excitement and clarity, but as challenges show up, which they will, progress feels slower than expected at all times and costs more money than we anticipated. And doubt, interference begins to creep in. And that's where most people quit. Not because they lack the ability, but because they misunderstand the evidence. We think slow progress means it's not working. We think discomfort means we're not capable. And we think uncertainty means we're on the wrong path. But those are all signs that we are growing. When we understand why most people quit, we give ourselves a choice to stay in the process just a little bit longer, because success isn't about talent. It's about staying long enough to let the process work. Blaine, in that idea of letting the process work, what comes to mind for you?
Well, you mentioned it with the comment around drifting. We get captured by external circumstances, and I mean captured by this, in the sense that we look around us and we say this is now what's true, and it's not what's true. I mean, the idea of signs don't precede, signs don't indicate where we're going. Signs just indicate where we're at right now, and they are lagging indicators, and they would not be appearing unless we were on the path to wherever it was that we were trying to get to. So, like you said, it's a matter of interpretation. So when we begin to look at how are we interpreting this information, then we have leverage. We can begin, and part of that says that we're now in control, in the sense that we have agency here. The external circumstances aren't knocking us off course. I have a decision to make at this point in time. Do I stay the course, or do I alter it just a bit? But when we're going to talk about this a little bit longer here, or in a little bit here, but for the sake of what? Am I even on this journey?
Yeah, and we have to remind ourselves in our consistent behavior as well. Lesson number one that I want to talk about with you is a lot of people quit, these drifters, because the results take longer than they expected. They somehow think that linear time is within the context of their control. And especially today where everybody rewards speed, but there's no rush in growth and results don't show up quickly. People will begin to interfere with their potential. What are some of the things that people can do to manage that expectation at the beginning of how long it takes?
Well, I grew up on a farm, and one of the things that has always stuck with me is when we put the seed in the ground, I didn't see anybody standing over the seeds going, grow, grow, grow. Where's that shoot? Come on up. Where's it at? It takes time. Gestation takes time. So I think part of it is you just begin to appreciate that there is a natural rhythm to the way things unfold. And if it's something new that you've never tried before, you don't really know what that rhythm is. All you can do is plant the seed, water it, feed it, nurture it, keep the weeds away, and then let it do what it's intended to do. It will grow.
And how do you feel about, our mentor, Bob Proctor, who was so involved in Napoleon Hill, the Institute, the foundation, et cetera? How do you feel about, the idea of putting a time frame on your objectives? I was always in agreement with as quickly as I can for the sake of what, talking about acceleration. I always felt that as if you said, I want to make this much money by the end of the year, by the end of the month, by the end of the week, you were just creating more resistance because every second that ticked, there was less time. And unfortunately, outcomes take time. And so we actually create resistance. I was curious how you reconcile this idea of everything has its own time with velocity and speed of trying to get it done as quickly as possible.
I work with a little meme that I've played with for a number of different years. It's already happened. I just haven't arrived. And when I can work
I
with
just
that,
interrupt. Mine goes, it's already happened. What am I doing to interfere with it? So it's very similar.
but very similar. Yep. So that's exactly what's kind of going on here. So if I haven't arrived, what's in the way? Yeah, and it's a matter of frequency.
And it's a matter of, uh, for me, the reaction to the fear is what gets in our way. What we do to accelerate and create resistance by going over it, under it, through it, around it, lying to it, cheating it, manipulating it, denying it, all of those different things. What we resist persists, and getting comfortable with the fact that it will happen in divine time as long as I put my attention and intention into that divine direction as well. And so, up front, we must tell ourselves that we can create velocity and speed, but we have no control on how long outcomes take or what outcomes are. And which leads us to the second lesson that I'd love to learn. If anybody would like the exercises on how to deal with not quitting when things take longer than expected, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. One of the other issues that I mentioned earlier, lesson number 2, is people quit, or we quit, because we misinterpret discomfort. Discomfort's often mistaken for failure when it's actually a sign of growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I'm not uncomfortable, I haven't set a goal that's big enough for me to grow. Yeah, I'm just, kind of in a comfort zone that doesn't require me learning anything new, doing anything new, or leveraging things in ways I've never leveraged them before. So an underused muscle, is going to be atrophied if it's not used. If you start to use it, lactic acid builds up, and all of a sudden I've got a little discomfort. And it's because I'm using that muscle. And that's essentially what's going on here. Discomfort is a great sign that something is happening.
Yeah, I think we can reframe discomfort as progress. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned our friend Bob Proctor. He used to talk about A goals, B goals, and C goals. An A goal is something I know how to do. A B goal is something that I know other people that know how to do it, so I can actually get that information pretty quickly. A C goal is something I don't have a bloody idea in hell how I'm going to do it. But I know that it's important to me, so I'm going to just jump into it and do it. And I call that a growel. Yeah, a growel. It's something that grows me. It's something that grows my organization. And growth comes with discomfort. With growing pains. My grandmother used to talk about growing pains when I was a kid. And I actually had growing pains as my bones were stretching and stuff. So that sort of stuff comes into play here.
Yeah, it certainly does. And one of the other things to realize is the energy of, for example, a comfort zone has a constrictive energy. If you stay in the comfort zone, things get smaller and you end up not even getting or able to get out of bed, depressed, anxious, frustrated, guilty, resentful. If you stay, though, on the other side of it, which is the anxiety zone, this is where you see highly functioning people, highly activating people, actualizing people also end up not being able to get out of bed, depressed, anxious, etc. Because if you stay in the anxiety zone, far outside of the learning zone, where this discomfort lies, this is where injury occurs. This is where constriction comes back down. So there is, if you look at this issue with 3 concentric circles, in the middle is the comfort zone, which pressures inward. If you don't go to the learning zone and stay in the learning zone, pretty soon, if you stay in the learning zone becomes your comfort zone. What used to be your anxiety zone becomes your learning zone, and you have a new level of C objectives, etc. And so we want to mirror the universe, and we want to expand. And the only way we expand, grow, or progress is with the recognition of discomfort, that we are going outside of what we know. I tell people all the time that feel stuck that I coach, I go, being stuck's a good thing, because if you were sitting in a room and you weren't trying to get to a bigger room and all the doors and windows were locked, you wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't feel stuck in that room at all. The fact that you feel stuck tells me you're trying to progress, get out of that room. And it's a good sign. That discomfort of feeling stuck is a good sign that you're growing and progressing. If anybody would like the 3 concentric circles, the exercises on the comfort, learning, and the anxiety zone, and how not to misinterpret discomfort, then please email me, David at dmeltzer.com. David means beloved, Meltzer servant, David at dmeltzer.com. The third lesson that we want to teach today, and I want to remind everyone that Blaine has graced us and will stay over to answer all of your questions here as well. Lesson number 3, we quit because we compare our beginning to someone else's middle or even end. And not only is comparison the thief of joy, comparison distorts our expectations, the management of those and development of those expectations, and definitely creates unnecessary pressure and constriction of where we want to be. You've coached so many people about competition and comparison and this distortion. What are some of the things as we look to recognize the difference between pursuing a potential and comparing ourselves to someone else?
Yeah, that's a great question. Overnight success comes to mind. There is no such animal as an overnight success. Yeah, and you're going to be at Augusta at the Masters coming up here, and we've got these pro golfers. They are just amazing. And what's interesting, there were some studies done with Olympic athletes, with extraordinarily high performers. And what was fascinating there, and they had a way to actually calibrate this in the study, was when you measured competition. Yeah, what we found was that these high performers, these extraordinary athletes, were competitive not with others. They were never competing with somebody else. They were competing with themselves. They had these standards inside that served as their benchmark, and they very rarely looked at what the other was doing as a way to determine what was next for them or what they should be doing. And I mean, that wasn't universal, but with the extraordinarily high performers, it was always back on themselves. You know, what's that next level for me? What's that next level for me? And if they stubbed their toe, you know, it was like, okay, that's mine to do here. I've got to learn something about this. And they used it as a stepping stone, not as a signal that things were all lost.
And that works within the context of business as well. You know, I see so many people, they'll look at even a young entrepreneur that's, you know, very successful within the realm of their expertise. And they may be as young as 19 or 21 years old. But if you look back, they were trading baseball cards when they were 7.
Yeah.
And now they have a huge franchise or a collectibles business, or they were playing video games since they were 6, or they were playing and coding for all types of different things, or they were, you know, cleaning trash cans as an entrepreneur, selling candy. And I know that people don't equate that as the experience, but it is. It is development of skills, knowledge, and desire that has led to the 17 years that it on average takes for overnight success. It's just that they started earlier, and they don't become a billionaire overnight.
Right.
If you look at Gates and Jobs and Musk and Bezos, none of them, and some had reached great economic success early in their careers, but it wasn't as early in your career as what we would determine compared to a 50-year-old who's starting, you know, to understand AI today. You know, they're you know, at a disadvantage, because most of the people that are successful today utilizing some sort of AI have been doing it for over 10 years already.
Absolutely.
And if not all of them, I should say. I apologize. So we can't compare our beginning to someone else's middle or end. And we need to manage those expectations. If anybody wants our competition comparison exercise to help you focus in on your own trajectory and limit the comparisons to track your own personal progress through quantitative analysis of one, assets that you own, and two, the time in which you're interfering with your potential, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. The fourth lesson I wanted to cover today is we quit because we overthink, we analyze, we use logic instead of action. Overthinking creates paralysis, it delays progress. You cannot change emotion, or energy with logic or analysis. And I find a lot of people create interference by utilizing the power of their thinking to their disadvantage. You have helped me understand this about the imperfect action and adjustment along the way. I call it the AAA strategy. Get alignment, take action, but prepare for adjustment.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, analysis paralysis. It comes into play here. And the interesting thing about life is that everything in life that is living, and this applies to your dreams, everything in life that is living is moving. And when it's not moving, if it's held too long, it starts to stagnate. So analysis, it's important when you're looking at adjusting, but you want to be sure that you're keeping yourself in motion in the process. And the only way that you can determine whether this is a workable path or a workable action is to take action. You can't imagine it happening without actually experiencing it happening to make the determination about, is this workable or not workable? And then you make that, as you mentioned, the adjustment. Did it get me the result that I thought I was going to get in terms of this incremental step? If it didn't, I make an adjustment, but I keep moving. And sometimes a step backward is the appropriate move to make in order to set yourself up for that next step forward in a little bit different direction.
And one of the other things that I utilize besides the AAA strategy is a go, no go plan for myself so that I make a decision up front according to my timing and risk tolerance of when I'm going to finish doing research for my book, writing the first chapter, when I'm going to do this. Our friend Rob Angel, who I love, who invented Pictionary, he wrote a great book. But I joke around and I said, that's 4 books that he wrote. It took him so long because he didn't have a AAA strategy. He didn't have a timing and risk tolerance analysis, and he didn't have a go, no go plan. And so every time there was more to add to the book. Every time, remember, everybody, whatever you're working on, there's more to add to it. But you need to upfront know alignment, action, and adjustment, not this is going to be perfect before I take action. And that's the incongruency that exists. If anybody would like the AAA strategy or the go, no go plan, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. It's a great way to align with your timing and risk tolerance and get things going and adjust and prepare for that adjustment as well. The fifth lesson that we want to cover today is we quit because we focus on outcomes we cannot control. And this attachment, this is what you started to talk about. I'm going to let you take over and tell me why we shouldn't say I'll be happy when I sell this business, make this much money, get married, do whatever, compared to focusing on the purpose, the passion, maybe even the profitability that we are guided towards in the pursuit of our perfection.
Yeah, the illusion of control, and I mean that very literally, the illusion of control gets more people in more trouble more frequently than just about anything that I can think of. The only thing that we really have any control over, and this is true of every single human being on the planet, is our thoughts, our attitudes, our emotions, and our behaviors. Those are the only things that we have control over, and they're all resident in us. They're not outside of us. So when we're trying to control external dynamics, yeah, we can influence them. We can actually do something to cause something to move a little bit, but it's really more about how we're working internally. The outcome is going to be what the outcome is, and it goes all the way back to the very beginning of our conversation here. It's about interpretation. It's about interpretation. Yeah, how do I interpret what's going on right now? And that I can control. I can control that interpretation, and that's where my ability to be resourceful actually lives. And this goes back to the analyze it and make an assessment and keep moving.
Yeah, for me, there's three things we can control, and I utilize the 5 daily practices to control that. So, understanding my effort, my attitude, and the consistency of that effort and attitude, what I am paying attention and giving intention to, what I want in that divine direction of where I think I want to be, and aligning the meaning of the mistakes, setbacks, and failures, all the previous lessons to it, to not limit my imagination or my self-image, noting you'll never overachieve your own self-image. And 2, knowing who you can help and who can help you. 3, in order to focus in on the effort, attitude, and consistency, know your how. Understand time, the 24 hours that you're guaranteed every day, except for the last day of your life, you'll be cheated. And when we know the non-negotiables, the negotiables, the prioritization of knowing our now, to antidote to feeling overwhelmed by attaching our emotions to an outcome for the sake of what, and then understanding the importance versus the urgency, as Eisenhower had his matrix, to understand what and how we prioritize the circumstantial behaviors of each day because of the uncertainty and the lack of control that we have. So we need to detach from those outcomes and stay committed to the process and understand that we control our effort, our attitude, and the consistency of it. And therefore, we are applying our why. This is what Blaine means by for the sake of what. You are not searching for your purpose. You are not searching for your why. You are applying your why. And when you apply your why, you are utilizing the infinite energy, the infinite intuition, intelligence, the infinite inspiration, and you're dissipating, dissolving the interference that we create by attachment and control illusions. And want to reiterate this lesson. If you would like the 5 daily practices to help you focus on the effort, attitude, and consistency, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. david@dmeltzer.com. Final lesson that we want to discuss today is we quit because we lose connection or we interfere with the connection to the infinite, which gives us, to me, an illusion of purpose or lack thereof. So without a clear understanding of applying our why, it becomes easy to walk away or quit when things get difficult. And in other words, faith. The first 5 lessons are about the wisdom of great mentors like Blaine Bartlett, blainebartlett.com. But lesson 6 is faith, because most of the process of success, passion, purpose, and profitability comes from evidence that makes no sense. It comes from evidence that is completely contrary to where we want to be. And yet we continue to put the effort, have the attitude, and be consistent in it and applying our why. Purpose fuels persistent. Your wonderful wife loves to say that if our purpose doesn't outweigh our pain, we are going to quit. This is the lesson of today. Blaine, how do we make sure that we're applying our why, that we are purposeful in our intention, a definiteness of purpose?
Napoleon Hill talks about desire. Wallace Wattles talked about desire. Thoreau talked about desire. Desire lives inside us. It's not outside us. And that's the distinction between inspiration and motivation. Yeah, things can motivate us, but those are all going to be out there somewhere. Inspiration, I don't go looking for my purpose. My purpose lives inside me, and it looks for expression. It wants to be as fully expressed as it possibly can. That's called desire. I desire it to be this. I desire it to express itself in this manner. That sort of stuff comes into play, but it's an inspirational move, not a motivational move. And
So
inspiration is real hard to put a lid on. It's hard to quash if you keep connected to it. That for the sake of what? Rooted in that is what matters. What matters to me? What do I get to have, do, or be as a consequence of taking this journey? What do I get to have, do, or be that I wouldn't get to have, do, or be if I didn't go in this direction, or if I didn't set this objective for myself? That's what we want to be able to tap into and continue to touch as things move.
So good. And motivation will get you up, get you started. It'll get you back up and get you back started, but it's not going to get you there. You have to live in spirit with inspiration, applying your why. Uh, there's so many reasons why people quit. And if you would like the exercise of motivation versus inspiration, make sure you email me, david@dmeltzer.com. In the lessons today with Blaine and I, before he starts taking some questions, we have to remind ourselves that we quit because results take longer than expected. We quit because we misinterpret discomfort. We quit because we compare our beginning to someone else's middle or end. And we quit because we overthink, analyze, logic instead of act. We quit because we focus on outcomes we can't control. And we quit because we interfere with the in spirit, the infinite energy, inspiration, intuition, and intelligence that exists out there. If you want any of the exercises and guides, the training from today, or my book, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. David means beloved. @D, that's my first initial. Meltzer means servant. David@dmeltzer.com. Happy to give you the guides, the exercises, and my books for free today and every day. Just email me. Just remember that quitting is rarely about the obstacle. It's about the meaning we give it. If we expect things to be fast, easy, and certain, we'll quit when they're not. But when we shift our perspective, everything will change. We begin to see how slow progress is still progress, how discomfort is growth, uncertainty is opportunity. The difference isn't talent, it's perspective and persistence. Success is built in the moments where we feel like quitting, but we don't. And when we keep making that choice, we give ourselves the chance to achieve what most people never will. Not because we're different, simply because we didn't stop. God bless all of you. This has been Why Most People Quit Training. Once again, if you like the exercises, guys, my book for free, david@dmeltzer.com. I'm going to leave you in the hands of my mentor, the incredible Blaine Bartlett, blainebartlett.com. He's going to guide you to make your possibilities your reality. Blaine, as always, I want to thank you so much for joining me and carrying the load of the Q&A. Thank you so much. Nick of Wam, are you there for a minute?
Let's try to unmute myself here. Yes, sir, I am. And happy Wednesday, gentlemen. Thank you so
All right,
much,
brother.
for the
I will
training
see you
here this
soon, Nick.
morning.
Have a safe flight home. Nick is the king.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And we're going to open it up for Q&A. So for everybody that's live here on the webinar, of course, as we are live on all platforms, make sure to put your questions into the chat here for Blaine here today. And of course, if you are live here in the Breakfast with Champions, the best room and community on Clubhouse, if you have a question for Blaine this morning, please use the hand icon to request to join the stage, and we will, of course, bring you up. And Mr. Blaine, I just sent you an invitation to join the stage as well. So you should be able to jump up there.
There we go. And I'll put this on mute. There we go.
If you can just go ahead and keep that rolling on the webinar, that would be great.
Got it.
Perfect. Awesome. And so for our first question of the day, we got the double B joining the double B. Bart Berkey. What a pleasure. We are blessed with you this morning. Why don't you kick us off with the first question of the day?
No, certainly. Happy Wednesday, Nick, and thank you to the amazing superstars. First of all, Blaine, names should to be familiar. Thank you for spending Sunday morning on our podcast. Most people don't, but you do. David was kind enough to introduce us, and you taught me some amazing things. First of all, you taught me a couple of things that.
Okay, Nick, you need to mute yourself. You know? Yeah, Nick, you need to mute yourself.
Okay.
There we go.
You taught me a couple of things. You were talking about people need to understand that they should be the center of distribution, not the center of accumulation. Meaning, give. Don't take, receive, and take. And you just sharing that statement with me on Sunday, you making yourself available on Sunday to give. I took your lessons and I shared it the following day when I was talking to individuals that I met on the street. When I was presenting, I shared your thoughts. So I just wanted to thank you for that. But as it relates to Napoleon Hill and the items you've been talking about this morning, I'm curious. We're talking about applying purpose and desire. What happens, and I'm thinking about a singing contest, I'm thinking about American Idol, when there are people that appear up on stage and they're interviewed beforehand, and they say, this would mean the world to me. And do you think you can win? Yes, because my friends and family think I'm a great singer. And then they perform, and maybe they appear to not be suitably talented enough to be a performer, a singer, an entertainer, because maybe they're off key. So I'm just curious, if there's ever a disconnect between true talent and desire, how do you reconcile passion with reality? So maybe they're not a good singer. Maybe they'll never be a good singer, but it's their dream. What type of messaging do you have when the passion does not necessarily fit the reality?
Yeah, it's a great question, Bart, and I loved sitting with you on Sunday. I mean, it was that was a great conversation. So thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you. There we go. Okay. There we go. Got it. Okay. And I'm just as I was saying, Bart. First of all, thanks for the question. I will answer, and I also just wanted to acknowledge the generosity and the grace with which you positioned our conversation on Sunday. I loved sitting with you and talking with you. It was a great time. So thank you for that. As far as your question's concerned, a singer that has no talent, we'll just kind of cut to the chase here. Where we get ourselves wrapped around the axle, I think, is when we begin to attach a picture of what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to be on this big stage singing at the Met, as an example. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having that vision. But here's the thing about vision, and this is what people get wrong about vision. Vision, it doesn't matter what the vision is, and I mean that very specifically here. It doesn't matter what the vision is. What's important about a vision is what it makes possible, what it can do. Where I get in trouble is when I begin to think that the picture is what I'm after. I'm not after the picture. I'm after the experience that the picture represents. So in the case of the singer, they see themselves on stage, but the stage that they see themselves on is the Met, as an example here. The stage is irrelevant. It absolutely is irrelevant. If the desire is to be a singer, they can be a singer in the shower. But if they start looking for public displays of singing, now they move into a domain where skill needs to be developed, where tone matters, where the ability to hold a note, a vibrato, I mean, all of the things that professional singers actually work with now become relevant as part of that picture. So the picture that they hold in their mind about being on stage is the catalyst oftentimes for moving into the skill development area. And just because my family said I'm a great, a good singer or a great singer, yeah, they're commenting based on their limited world of experience and also the fact that they love me. So they have probably very little skill or credibility in terms of being a voice coach. If I'm really insistent on and serious about being on a stage in a professional sense, I will hire a voice coach. I will get somebody that has been there before me that can tell me what's going on. Every voice can be trained. Every voice can be trained. Some of them will not, rise to the level of a Pavarotti, but they can still be trained.
Amazing. Thank you, so I appreciate it.
You betcha. Great seeing you.
Thank you so much, Bart, for our first question of the day. And Mr. Blaine, we're going to keep things rocking and rolling here on Clubhouse with our next question, as we have Allie here, who has been patiently waiting on stage. So, Allie, happy Wednesday. Lovely to see you here. What question do you have?
Good morning, everyone. Always a pleasure getting time with you, Blaine.
You too, Allie. Good to see you here again.
Thank you. My question for you is, when discomfort shows up, for you personally, what do you actually do in that moment where you reframe it, that you found over the years that really has helped you? So what does your internal process look like?
Okay, the first part of your question I missed, Allie. When what shows up?
So when discomfort
discomfort.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you personally do in that moment to reframe it, and what's your internal process?
Literally, the very first thing that happens is I must be on the right path, rather than, oh my God, this sucks. I can control my thinking. The external event is the external event. Earlier in the teaching, I made a comment about exercising, and the lactic acid buildup, and the next morning, my muscle is sore. Instead of going, oh, well, that sucks, I'm never going to do that again, I'm going, that actually, that hurts. I must have done something right here, knowing that I didn't tear a ligament or there was no muscle tear. It was just the muscle that hadn't been used is being used. So it's a matter of reframing, as you're talking about here. That is what I can control. And speed bumps are going to occur in life. I'm going down this path, and all of a sudden there's a pothole. It's kind of this is where the notion of an obstacle comes into play. Obstacles will never appear unless you're on the path to where you say you want to be going. The obstacle is actually part of the path. It's part of the path, and it's placed there in part to teach me how to move into an area I've never been before. I have to now go over it or around it or under it, or find some way to go through it. I have to begin to develop skills, knowledge, information, connecting dots in ways I've never done it before. And all of that is part of the journey to get to that dream destination. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. My brain is going to go, God, I wish this wasn't here. But if it was smooth sailing, I wouldn't be actually developing muscle. I wouldn't be developing, from a neuroplasticity perspective, I wouldn't be developing new pathways in my mind or in my brain to begin to understand things and grok things in a little bit different way. So it really is a matter of reframing. And my first move, back to your original question here, my first move is, this is an unexpected opportunity. And I guess that's probably the best way to do it. Yeah, something happens. This is an unexpected opportunity. I wasn't planning for this. How can I utilize this?
Awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you, Blaine.
You bet, Allie. Thank you.
All righty, and for our next question of the day, Mr. Blaine, it over to our two favorite letters in the alphabet, which are, of course, GG. So, GG, it's always good to see you here. Thank you for your help as always. So, what question do you have for Blaine today?
Hello, happy Wednesday. Thank you, Blaine.
You bet.
For this amazing training. So, my question is, so if you go into the idea of paradise lost is when you have everything handed to you, you're not going to find fulfillment. And then I'm going back to the quote, those travel why can bury anyhow. How important is that seed of desire? And how do we plant that to not quit?
Desire is the catalyst for everything, as far as I can tell. True desire. And how do I plant the seed? One way that, number one is to understand the seed is already planted. The seed is already planted. This is why I get, in the coaching that I do with the clients that I work with, and I did this myself, early in my life. What's my purpose? I'm going to go looking for, I've got to find my purpose in life. No, I don't have to find it. It's already there. I just need to be quiet long enough to understand and see and grok that this is present in me. And now how do I express it more fully? Yeah, I'm a teacher. Yeah. So, when I start thinking about, what's my purpose in life, I teach. How do I express that more fully? Well, I know in terms of desire that I feel most alive, I feel most fulfilled, I feel most satisfied, I feel most creative when I'm teaching. And part of that has to do with study, part of it has to do with writing. Those sorts of things come into play. Part of it has to do, because I tend to be more of an introvert than an extrovert, but I will come out. I will come out when I'm teaching. When I'm on stage in front of 5,000 people or whatever it might be, I am just alive. I feel there's a reciprocity of energy that kind of it flows through me, and then it flows into the audience. Those sorts of dynamics come into play here. And it's catalyzed by desire. Desire to be expressing as fully as I can possibly express that seed that is linked to what matters to me, that for the sake of what. Or in my life, what I do in life is linked to for the sake of what about teaching. I teach for the sake of what? So that I'm experiencing, uplifting the quality of life on my, for me, but also on the planet, for people on the planet. That sort of thing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet, Gigi.
Thank you so much, Gigi, for the question. And for our next question of the day, we're going to keep it here live on Clubhouse as we have Mitra on stage, and then we will show some love to the chat and take a question from online. But without further ado, Mitra, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself and carry us on with the next question?
Yes, hi, Blaine. My question is something about your answer that you gave Ali earlier about obstacles that we meet on our journey, and I totally understand that. But sometimes I know if there's something that we want, and if there are like too many obstacles, we sometimes say, okay, that's definitely probably not something that we should pursue because there's just too many obstacles, so it's not meant to be, right? So I understand the point that if there are no obstacles, then there's no growth. But sometimes I also hear people say, oh, it's just not meant to be. The universe is trying to protect us. So that's why it's trying to take us away from that path. And it always reminds me of something my friends during COVID, they tried to do a semester abroad in Bali, and they had so many issues with the flights, with the hotels, with the stays, but they wanted it so bad that they pushed through it. And at the end, it happened, and they had the best time of their life in Bali. So that's why I'm trying to understand, how do I read the signs? Sometimes you can also read the signs wrong. And I think with this one, it's a little bit hard.
Mm-hmm. Mitra, that's a great question. It really is. Part of it has to do, and I go back to, I can't control external outcomes. I can't control what's going on out there. What I do have control over is my internal dialogue, my internal conversation. And that has to do with, the stories I make up about what's going on out there. The example that you gave about COVID and travel restrictions and whatnot. This is where desire plays such a huge piece. I would not have the dream unless it was wanting to be expressed. And I want to be very clear about that. I would not have the dream, the visceral dream, where I feel it as something that is, it is part of who I am. And it's going to be the expression of this. There will be many, many obstacles, that occur. I want to keep coming back to the interpretation. This obstacle would not be here unless there was something I needed to have in order to go to the next level of my movement towards that outcome, that goal, that dream. I learned something new. The universe is never going to conspire against me. It truly isn't. If I'm on this path, it's because this path was part of the universe's plan for where I'm going next in my life. Now, will there be backwater eddies? Will there be sometimes false starts? Yeah, absolutely. So I want to pay attention. Where I want, and this is the human condition. This is where we get ourselves kind of in a position here where we start listening to the external world and say, well, that it's just not going to happen, and we collapse. Bob Proctor talked about something that he called the terror barrier. And it's, when we start going for this big dream that we want to have, what I call a goal, our mindset, our belief systems, our paradigm will throw up all kinds of stuff to stop us. The purpose of the mind is to protect the ego. The purpose of the mind is to protect the current state of affairs. When you start challenging that, the mind goes crazy. And it starts going, yeah, but. I mean, all of those yeah, but, you can't do this. Who do you think you are? Why do you think you can do this? Are you out of your mind? I mean, all of those stories start to kick into play. This is why desire becomes such an important component of being able to be successful in life. And I'm not talking materially successful. I'm talking about fulfilled in the expression and living of my life. So if I've got a lot of obstacles that are occurring and appearing, your risk, your time risk tolerance comes into play here. David talks about that a lot. What's the time frame in which you're operating with this? Is there something that you need to be paying some attention to here that will mitigate some of the stuff that you're encountering right now? So you're always making assessments, and sometimes that assessment requires a detour. Sometimes it requires just kind of sitting back and gathering your breath, and waiting for this rain cloud to pass before you take that next step again. But you never lose connection to that ideal, to what it is that you'd like to see happen. And as long as you still have that connection, you will keep yourself moving.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You bet, Mitra. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Blaine. And as I mentioned, we want to show some love to the community online. So I know Gigi had mentioned we got a bunch of questions in the chat. So she's going to go ahead and put one up on the webinar. Mr. Blaine, as soon as she has done so, if you wouldn't mind just reading the question and then taking over from there.
Okay, this is from Claude Cornetti. Claude, thank you for this. When can you tell when you are on the wrong path despite living in your commitment? The idea of, I'm going to use the word wrong here, Claude. Language creates reality. It is also a reflection of reality. So words like right, wrong, good and bad, they are always linked to some value assessment, some values assessment. Linguistically, what you want to be doing is begin asking yourself questions around, is this path working for me or not working for me? That takes the value structure out of it. And I mean value structure in the sense of, values are things that people have told us we're supposed to be doing, things that are appropriate, belief systems, the paradigm, all of that stuff comes into play here. When I'm working with language that is organized around, is this working or not working? It is just an objective assessment of where I'm at this point in time. And just because I run into an obstacle doesn't mean it's not working. Oftentimes the obstacle means it is working, because I wouldn't be encountering this, and it's now requiring me to grow in a different way or to learn something I've never learned before. So, my invitation to you, Claude, here would be to not linguistically organize your assessment of what's going on in terms of right and wrong, good or bad. Kind of sit back a little bit and go, well, is this working? Well, if it's not working, what needs to be adjusted? That'll make a big difference in terms of how you actually approach that next step. You want to find ways to keep moving. If this isn't working, okay, what do I need to learn here? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to leverage a little bit more effectively than what I've been doing? Those sorts of things begin to appear as possibilities. Right, wrong, it kind of limits me. It's kind of, well, if it's wrong, I've got to stop doing it. Well, that's a binary choice. I want to have a whole lot more than two choices available to me. And so working with language makes a big difference in terms of my experience of what's going on.
Fantastic, Blaine. And as we are getting ready to close out this incredible power hour of the Napoleon Hill Institute training today, I want to close this out with actually what is our final question of the day. And then after you are all set, Blaine, I will, of course, go through the reminders for our community to invite but not obligate them to make sure that they are joining us, whether it's on the road or with all the options, opportunities, and touches of favor we have. But my question for you, Mr. Blaine, is when it comes to people quitting, I've seen, based on some of the people that I work with, whether it's executives or business owners, that some people quit simply because of the feeling of being too overwhelmed consistently. And I know that through your experience with so many different executives and founders and entrepreneurs as well, you've seen this. Yeah. So how do you coach those entrepreneurs and execs through what is shifting their mindset of being overwhelmed to then being more so blessed with abundance, so they can see all that they are given and really be able to capitalize on the opportunities in front of them?
Yeah, white space comes to mind. We need to have breathing room. Here's an interesting, it's kind of playful way to think about this. God created time so that everything didn't happen all at once. And people that are in overwhelm, they do experience everything happening all at once. So we want to be able to create for ourselves, produce for ourselves, position ourselves so that we have white space in our life. And it can be something as simple, Nick, as just getting up out of my chair and taking a walk in the woods, or just getting out of my office without considering the deadline that's looming over my shoulder. It's kind of like nobody's birthday is going to get taken away if I just take 5 minutes and take a walk and get a breath of fresh air. Nobody's birthday is going to, nobody's going to lose that. When I come back, now I've got a little bit of breathing room and I can tackle that. Oftentimes overwhelm comes from thinking I have to do everything all at once, and not necessarily thinking it, but feeling as if everything has to be done now. Everything doesn't have to be done now. So white space can give me the opportunity to begin to prioritize. And David talks about Eisenhower's matrix. Ping him, D. Meltzer, David at dmeltzer.com. He will give you a copy of the Eisenhower matrix. I've got one in my file that I've had for years. It's a beautiful way of actually beginning to prioritize content in my life so that it doesn't overwhelm me. So that would be the suggestion I would make.
Absolutely love it, Blaine. Thank you so much for your help here this morning and for the way that you show up to be of service to this incredible community, not just, of course, on the Breakfast with Champions, the best rooming community on Clubhouse, but to our entire community as we are live on all platforms. And before I let you go, Mr. Blaine, do you have any final words that you'd like to share from today's training? Or at least please let people know where they can reach out to you, get in touch with you, so they can continue to get the incredible wisdom that you have to share.
Yeah, you can find out more about what I'm up to at blainebartlett.com, moving possibilities into reality. You can also directly email me at blaine@avatar-resources.com, which is my company address, blaine@avatar-resources.com. And if you got a question, feel free to just ping me, and I'll do my best to get it, an answer or a comment back to you within 24 hours for sure.
Fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, we are blessed here with Blaine Bartlett, and he is going to continue to be with us for these Napoleon Hill Institute trainings every single Wednesday. So Blaine, thank you again for your time here this morning. And for everybody else, we want to thank you for joining us. And if you would like a guide and exercise from today's training, I'd like to remind you to email David directly for your copy, which is david@dmeltzer.com. davidmeltzer.com. That's David at D first initial Meltzer last name.com to get the guide and exercise from today's training or any of the guides and exercises that were mentioned throughout the training today. Additionally, I'd like to remind everybody to make sure that they get their copy of David's newest book, Don't Do Business with Dicks, which continues to fly off the shelves, whether it's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you may get your books. Of course, you can always visit dmeltzer.com/book to get your copy today as well. And once you do get your copy, please reach out to David directly to let him know. He trusts your word. He doesn't need a copy of the receipt or anything like that. He just wants to send you the rest of his books completely for free. They'll send you a copy, sign a copy, and even pay for shipping, ladies and gentlemen. So all you need to do is reach out to David directly, David at dmeltzer.com. And last but most certainly not least, as you all know, we are on tour over 200 days in cities every single year, hosting, of course, keynote speeches, masterminds, and everything in between. To save some time, we have this concept where we call the car wash, which is adding on a community meetup, holding court, interviews, or even a VIP dinner. So if you would like to come and join us tomorrow in New York City and New Jersey for the Epic Wealth Summit, and of course a car wash. Then from there, we will be off to Phoenix, Arizona with the professional athlete community, and of course a car wash there as well. Then it'll be off to Augusta, Georgia for the Masters Mastermind and a car walk once again. Then we will be back in Los Angeles for our content mastermind at WME in Los Angeles, plus a car wash as well. So ladies and gentlemen, that is just the next 2.5 weeks. So if you would like to come and join us on the road, all you need to do is text us to get the reminders on where we're going to be. So please text area code 949, next 3 digits 298, last 4 digits 2905. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that is area code 949, next 3 digits 298, last 4 digits 2905 to get the invitations but not obligations over 200 times a year to come and join us in person. Of course, we will be back here live this upcoming Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for David's Free Friday trainings. And of course, we'll be back here in Clubhouse next Monday for an Ask Me Anything, and next Wednesday with Mr. Blaine Bartlett for some more Napoleon Hill Institute training. But in the meantime, have an incredible rest of your Wednesday ahead. And as we always say, continue to be more interested than interesting, and be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Thank you so much, everybody, for an incredible session here today. And as for the webinar, Gigi, hit it.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words: say thank you.